All right. There's been a lot of interest in. I don't know. This person is stopping in the middle of a traffic here. There's been a lot of interest in the land I just purchased, the off-grid land that I bought sight unseen, and I thought I would take a moment today to address the land and what's going on with it. So basically, I bought some land in Florida that is like swampland, but the land I got actually, even though it's located in an area with full of swampland, it's actually kind of dry land, which means you can actually build on it. And one of the reasons I picked it was I'm familiar with the area, and that particular spot right there, you're allowed legally to build a camp on it as long as you don't build a building with a foundation. So like you could put an RV out there or a camper trailer or even possibly a mobile home, you know, as long as you don't actually set cement down and make a foundation. So it's actually a good spot for off-grid living. Okay, you know, you wouldn't say you live out there, you just say you're camping out there indefinitely. You know, but it would be legal. If you've ever tried to find a land in the United States that allows you to live off-grid, it's hard. It's hard because most of that land is going to be out in the middle of nowhere, like on a mountain or in the desert or something that's like impossible to access unless, you know, you're like a wild man that can backpack out through the woods or whatever and get out there. But then you're basically building with only what you can carry out there, which would be maybe a saw or something and a hammer. I don't know, screwdriver. I don't know, whatever you take to build. But this land, from the satellite images, is how I determined that, you know, it was something that I might want to risk, because it had roads. It had what looked like roads that led up to it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure they're paths that may be roads, you know, wide enough for a vehicle to go on. But what I didn't realize from the satellite images is it wasn't just dirt, it was sugar sand. Because it turns out that whole area is like sugar sand pretty much. But what prompted me to go ahead and make the purchase, you know, after discussing with my wife, was we scanned the area around, looking at it's not really satellite, it's aerial. It could be satellite, I don't know, it was really detailed. But you could see people had camps out there that had RVs. Like nearby there were camps with 3 or 4 RVs parked in like a U shape. And some had buildings. People put like, I don't know if they took a mobile home out there, or they built a hut. You know, they built not a hut, but like a real building. Like they had bulldozers and stuff build this stuff. And I was like, well, you're able to access the land, and it could possibly drive my RV or get a Class C RV or whatever and drive it out there and just park it there. That's what I thought. That was my initial thinking when I saw those RVs out there. So I was like, yeah, I probably can access it, and then there's a chance I could park good enough out there, or maybe get a free RV and have it towed out there or whatever. So that would be an initial way to get a camp up and running really cheap. Land, once you pay for it, taxes on it were very low. Like, I think tax on it is like, for some of you are wondering how large the land is, it's 1.25 acres. And tax on it is like about, you know, with all the fees and everything, including the tax, less than $27 a year. So I would only have to pay $27 a year, and I have land that I don't have to pay electricity on, and I have to pay running water on. And if I set up a little hut out there or something, the city's not going to give me a hard time because it's zoned for camping and stuff. It's zoned for recreation. It's zoned for people to set up camps. As long as they don't build a foundation, you know, you don't have anything with a foundation, you're good to go. And so I was like, hey, you know what, this is actually kind of a lucky deal, because most places it's impossible to find land like that, you know, especially one with a road that goes right up to it. Actually goes through it. So that's kind of messed up, but still, you could get out there and build your hut or whatever. I'll just stay behind this. I'm behind this guy here. There's a tractor trailer in front of me. But so I was like, well, this could be a good deal. And not only that, the source I was buying it from, I got it on discount. Similar land in the area, roughly the same size, is going for about $12,000 to $15,000, which I can never afford. $12,000 to $15,000 for land. Even though some people will consider that a bargain if you can put a house on, if you can put an off-grid house like a container home, shipping container or whatever, it's allowed out there. As long as you don't build a foundation, you're just laying it down and building on your container or whatever, or you could raise it up maybe on pylons that you don't put cement down. But it would allow off-grid living. And the land, initially, people consider it like swampland, in Florida, because people weren't into off-grid living. But off-grid living is the in thing now, because people are not wanting, rent is too high, paying a mortgage is too expensive. Being able to live simple off-grid has become something that's kind of desirable. So the price of the land has been going up. I was lucky to get a discount, because the guy was a land investor. And, he was honest about it. He said that, he hadn't been out there. He didn't have access to it. I had to go through the county and an organization or whatever to get the keys and pay all these fees and file all these things. And I bought it without seeing the land firsthand. But I knew where it was, and I knew what goes on out there and stuff. So I figured I would buy the land and then go build my little camp out there so that I had a home base, because my trip to Thailand has been delayed. I don't know how long. It's like indefinite. So I figured, well, I could get the land out there. If I lose my job or whatever, I won't be homeless. There's a lot of people right now in America becoming homeless. So I was like trying to buffer myself and said, well, I could live off that land if I needed to. You can even hunt out there. There's hunting. So that was the plan. And I knew that, going out there, I would probably need to eventually, if I decide to keep the land or whatever, I would eventually have to get like a 4x4 truck or something to carry supplies out there to build, as well as to navigate. I just didn't know that you couldn't even get out there without one. Not until I went to look at the land itself and tried to get in and saw what it was like. I was like, well, now, I can't even go to the land till I can get a 4x4. And even then, I don't know if the trucks would make it. Maybe the only people who go out there, they go out there in the ATVs or the dune buggies and stuff, the sand buggies. Actually, not even sand, because this is Florida. It's sand and swamp. Because parts of it, you might have to go through water. This is Florida. So I was like, well, that makes it kind of hard to get to. In a way, it's good. In a way, it's bad. I mean, everyone there will have swamp buggies, so for them, it's not a problem. But, the place is gated, so you can't even get in unless you own land out there, so it's somewhat protected, And if you're living off-grid, at least it has paths and trails you can get out there. It's better than buying land in the desert or something that's in the mountain that you can't even get in. There's a lot of land that's for sale, like in Florida and other places, but they're landlocked, meaning that there's no roads. You can't even get out there. You would have to park at a city and hike like 50 miles through woods to get to it, This land had, it looked like a road. And, whether or not it's a road doesn't really matter at this point because I can't get to it. I do want to get out there and take a look, but I know it's possible to put an RV or whatever out there. And I think how they did it, now that I saw the land, not the land, but the gate and what the road might have looked like, might all be sugar sand. I don't think they drove it out there. I think what they did was they had it towed out there by a bulldozer or something. So that's how they got those buildings and the RVs, the big giant vehicles out there. I thought they drove it out there, but I'm thinking now they probably had it towed. Which for me means that, if I decide to proceed, I have to accommodate that cost of paying a bulldozer if I want to tow an RV or something out there. But my biggest thing is, how can I get out there? And the only way I can conceive is getting a truck, a four-wheel drive truck. That would allow me to carry supplies and stuff to build out there as well. But I have to make sure that the road is truck-worthy, that I can take a truck through there. So at this point right now, I'm trying to hook up with other people who live out there or have land out there that they use on the weekends, for that same area, to see if they can give me a ride. I'll pay them, like a day for a couple hours, an hour or two, just to ferry me, take me to my land, and so I can assess it and see what's there. And I also want to look at the path, the road, if it's a path that a truck can get on. And then if it looks like it's a path a truck can get on, then I'm probably going to have to buy a truck. I'm going to have to invest in a truck, a 4-wheel drive truck. So, you know, I would need it anyways. It's not like I wouldn't need the truck. If I was living out there, I would need that truck anyways. It's wilderness. It's out, you know, it's not like a city. So basically I have to become a redneck, you know, or at least hook up with rednecks and try to fit in as an Asian redneck. Yeehaw! Yeah, I know some people think I'm being derogatory, but you know, redneck is actually not a derogatory term, you know, at least not to a lot of them. You know, a lot of people take that as a badge of honor. It just means that you're able to navigate the swamps and the wilderness and all that without problems. And that's what those people were all doing out there. They were out there with their ATVs and they got stuck and they didn't panic, you know. They got stuck and they just said, hey, can you pull this and blah, blah, blah. And 5 or 10 minutes later, they were out. So I've been looking on YouTube how to drive a 4-wheel drive truck that's stuck in the sand. And there's like this process you can do called crawl. They have some of the trucks have a button you can push. It's called like a crawler or whatever. And what it does is it spins the tires really slowly when you're stuck. And when it spins it slowly, like going forward or going back, it shovels the dirt in, you know, the sand. It shovels it underneath the tire and packs it down. And then it very slowly crawls you out of the hole. Because see what happens when you get stuck in the sand? The tire just spins in place. And it digs a hole, and then pretty soon the bottom of your vehicle is floating on sand and you're making no contact. Because people tend, when they start to get stuck, to accelerate. And when they accelerate, it digs you in deeper. So what the crawler does, the crawling process, the button makes the tires go real slow and it packs the loose sand in to make it tight. And then it rolls out very slowly like a crawl. And they were showing that you could do it even without a crawler if you can, you know, manage to drive slowly. But I noticed on all the demos, they had 4-wheel drive trucks with really nice tires with big, huge threads on them. Or treads, I don't know if it's threads or treads, whatever that's called. So I'm looking now potentially for a cheap, affordable 4-wheel drive truck. I know some people say I should probably get a van, but I think a truck would be more useful in this case because I want to do some building out there. And it would allow me to haul things. But of course, if I commit myself to a truck, I'm committing myself to staying here for a while, which I still don't know. My wife and I are still trying to decide because, you know, we want to kind of leave the country. That's what was getting me disappointed. I was like, maybe I'll just stay here 1 or 2 years, have the land, and just use it when we come back here. All right, we're getting bad connections, so I'm going to sign out here in a minute. But, you know, by spending the money on a 4-wheel drive vehicle and other off-grid stuff, I'm kind of committing to staying because I'm spending my money that I would be using to buy airline tickets. One of the viewers said, you know, as my wife says, it'll sort of work itself out. So that's why I'm just taking it easy. But the first step for me is to try to hook up with somebody to take me out there and look at the road. And if the road is good, then get a vehicle. I'll have to save up and get a vehicle. And then get myself out there. And then at that point, I'm committed to spending money on getting out there and fixing it up and using it. But if I wanted to sell it, I could sell it for a profit because I got it like way cheaper than all the other land I see out there advertised. Most of it I'm seeing advertised for about $12,000. I pay less than $12,000, so I could easily sell it for probably $8,000 to $10,000, you know, and get my money back. But I'm thinking it might be worth keeping just because it allows off-grid living. And that's becoming harder and harder to find in the United States. And the reason it's allowing for it is I think it's like grandfathered in because the land area was developed more than 50, 60 years ago. And there are people living out there like that. So that was before the cities and them started saying, you can't live on your own land. You can't do this on your own land. You have to go through all these policies, all these things. So older land that's out there, you know, you can get away with that. So if this works out, then I'll end up building an off-grid little place to stay at. Otherwise, I'll end up selling the land. So it just depends on what happens next when I try to get out there and take a look. Well, thank you all for joining me. If you enjoyed this video and want to follow along, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, be sure to share it. I do appreciate your comments. I do read them and try to consider them and, you know, put them in mind, because they do kind of guide me a little bit, because I have no clue what I'm doing. So until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Please stay safe. And if you're wanting to try to find cheap land like this, you can just look up cheap land for sale, okay? And then all these sites will come up, and then you can type in like your location where you want. There's some in like Tennessee. Some of the Tennessee land might be better, you know, because they got like mountains. The problem you're going to run into is if it's off-grid and it's cheap, it might not be accessible. You might not be able to get out there. So when you see these land, you got to make sure, you know, there's road or something nearby, unless you're planning on hiking there by foot. So you got to make sure that whatever you buy, you're going to be able to get out there. Because if you can't get out there, you're going to buy land that you can't use, you know. And the reason I picked this one, like I said, was because it looked like it had a road near it. So be sure to look for that when you're trying to make your land purchase. But I've seen them as low as, you know, for really like out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, like as low as like $1,000, $1,500. And you could probably pick up like half an acre or 1 acre, you know. This particular land I'm in, a lot of people buy it and subdivide it. So like what I bought as 1.25 acres, so split into 4 parcels, or sometimes even 8 parcels, and sell them. And then people buy them up, because land is getting harder and harder to find that's affordable, especially land that allows you to basically build out there without permits and all this stuff, you know. I mean, you're not building a real building, you're building a hut, or you're towing something out there like an RV. So you get, if you think about it, like what you pay to park an RV, let's say you pay $500 to $700 a month. For less than 1 year of parking your RV, you could own land that you could park your RV on. Of course, you won't have electricity or water and stuff. You have to generate all that. But that's what I'm planning on doing. I'm planning on generating my own electricity and water and everything else, septic systems and everything, when I'm out there, because I'm off-grid. But then there's no bills. The only bill is the tax bill. So that's a bonus. So stay tuned, follow along. I'll keep you guys posted. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the kind words and the helpful hints. Until next time, take care, everyone. God bless you all. Bye-bye now.